She was starving, ignored by the world, until she whispered for words that changed everything. Your trash could save lives. The man who laughed at her, he never saw what was coming. This is a story about hunger, arrogance, and the justice that left him with nothing. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on notifications. Because real-life transformations like this, you won't want to miss what happens next. The girl in the dumpster. The rain fell in heavy sheets over Chicago, turning the city's alleys into rivers of grime and discarded dreams. Neon signs flickered weakly against the darkness, their reflections pooling in the oily puddles that lined the pavement. It was past midnight, and the only sound was a rhythmic patter of rain against metal dumpsters, and the quiet rustling of a lone figure digging through one of them. Lena Morales pulled her damp coat tighter around her shoulders, her fingers numb from the cold. She wasn't just searching for food. She was looking for hope. The dumpster behind La Bella Vita, an upscale Italian restaurant, was always a gold mine on Sunday nights. Leftover bread, untouched salads, even the occasional half-finished dessert. All of it tossed away without a second thought. She lifted a styrofoam container, her stomach growling at the sight of barely touched lasagna. Carefully, she wiped the edges clean and placed it into her backpack, already filled with other salvage meals. She wasn't saving this just for herself. Tonight, like every night, she'd take it back to the old church basement where a dozen others waited. People who, like her, had fallen through the cracks of a city too busy to notice. A sharp laugh cut through the rain. Pathetic. Lena froze. The voice was deep, laced with amusement, and something far uglier, disgust. She turned slowly, rainwater dripping from her dark curls, and saw him. A man in a tailored overcoat, his designer shoes gleaming under the alley's dim light. Tyler Hawthorne. She recognized him from the billboards downtown. Hawthorne Developments, building the future. He smirked, shaking his head as if she were some kind of street performer failing to entertain. Get a job instead of scavenging like a rat. Lena's fingers tightened around the container in her hands. She could have fired back, told him she had a job once, before the hospital bills buried her, before the system decided she was expendable. But anger was a luxury she couldn't afford. Instead, she met his gaze and spoke softly, her voice barely louder than the rain. Your trash could save lives. Tyler blinked, then let out a sharp bark of laughter. Yeah, here's a tip. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a half-eaten sandwich from the restaurant, tossing it at her feet. The plastic wrap split open, the bread smearing against the wet pavement. Enjoy your 5-star meal. He turned to leave, but something made him glance back. Maybe curiosity, maybe just a need to savor his own cruelty a little longer. What he saw stopped him cold. Lena wasn't eating the sandwich. She was kneeling, carefully picking up the unsoiled portions and tucking them into a clean napkin before placing them in her bag. Every movement was deliberate, almost reverent. This wasn't desperation. This was purpose. A flicker of something crossed Tyler's face. Irritation, maybe, or the faintest prickle of unease. He opened his mouth, perhaps to throw another insult, but then his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, scowling at the screen. Yeah, I'm on my way. He snapped before shoving it back into his coat. One last look at Lena, still crouched in the alley like some modern-day saint of the unwanted, and he muttered, whatever, stay delusional. Then he was gone, his expensive shoes splashing through puddles as he disappeared around the corner. Lena exhaled, her breath clouding in the cold air. She adjusted her backpack, heavy with tonight's haul, and turned toward the street. The rain was letting up, but the chill remained. What Tyler didn't know, what he couldn't have guessed, was that Lena wasn't just some random homeless woman. 2 years ago, she'd been the one inside restaurants like La Bella Vita, not behind them. She'd been a nutritionist, working with shelters to redirect surplus food to those in need. Then she'd blown the whistle on a major grocery chain for illegally dumping edible food, and found herself blacklisted, unemployed, and eventually evicted. Now, she fed people the same way she once had, just without the paycheck. And Tyler? He was about to learn that the things we throw away, whether food, people, or decency, have a way of coming back to haunt us. Because as Lena walked away, a security camera above the dumpster blinked steadily. capturing every moment of their encounter. And in 2 days, that footage will be playing on every news channel in the city. But for now, the night was quiet. The rain had stopped. And in a dim church basement 12 blocks away, a line of hungry people waited for the girl who turned trash into miracles. The lawsuit that shook the city. The morning sun cut through the blinds of Tyler Hawthorne's penthouse, painting stripes of gold across the marble floors. He barely noticed. His attention was locked on his phone, where a news alert blared in bold letters. Local developer faces lawsuit over illegal dumping. Whistleblower claims edible food destroyed, while homeless starve. Tyler's grip tightened around the device. This had to be a joke. He scrolled furiously, his pulse quickening as the article loaded. There, right at the top, was a photo of her, the dumpster girl from the alley. Only now, she wasn't some faceless nobody. The caption beneath her picture read, Lina Morales, former nutritionist turned food rescue advocate, files legal complaint against Hawthorne Enterprises. A sharp knock at his office door made him jump. His lawyer, Richard Cole, strode in without waiting for an answer, his usual calm demeanor replaced by something graver. "We have a problem," Richard said, tossing a thick folder onto Tyler's desk. "She's not just some homeless woman. She documented everything, dates, times, locations. Over 2,000 pounds of food dumped weekly from your restaurants, all while being tax-ridden as destroyed inventory." Tyler flipped open the folder, his stomach twisting at what he saw. Photos, receipts, even employee testimonies from his own staff. How had she gotten all this? "This is bullshit," Tyler snapped, shoving the papers away. "Since when is throwing out trash a crime?" Richard sighed, rubbing his temples. "When it's not actually trash." The city's new Good Samaritan Act protects businesses that donate excess food, but penalizes those who deliberately waste it. And Lina Morales? She's got receipts proving you ordered staff to trash food rather than donate it. Said it attracted the wrong crowd. A cold wave of realization crashed over Tyler. He had said that more than once. Across town, in a cramped community center, Lina sat at a folding table, surrounded by volunteers sorting through crates of rescued food. The air smelled of bread and ripe fruit, a stark contrast to the sterile legal documents spread in front of her. A young reporter, Maya Chun, leaned forward, her voice low but intense. "You're sure you want to do this? Hawthorne's lawyers are going to come at you hard." Lina didn't hesitate. "Let them." She slid a flash drive across the table. "This has security footage from every one of his restaurants for the past 6 months. Watch the 9 p.m. dumpster runs. That's when they toss the untouched food, whole trays of pasta, unopened desserts. Meanwhile, kids at the shelter down the block get 1 meal a day." Maya's eyes widened as she plugged the drive into her laptop. The footage was damning. Pristine food, bagged and thrown directly into compactors. Staff laughing as they poured bleach over produce to stop dumpster divers. "Holy shit," Maya whispered. Lina's voice was steel. "He's going to say I'm just some angry homeless woman with a grudge. But this isn't about me. It's about every person who's ever gone hungry while perfectly good food rots in a landfill." The courtroom was packed on the day of the hearing. Reporters lined the back walls, their cameras flashing as Tyler strode in, his tailored suit failing to mask the tension in his jaw. Lina entered moments later, wearing a simple blazer over her thrift store clothes, a deliberate choice. The contrast wasn't lost on anyone. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with silver-streaked hair, silenced the room with a single tap of her gavel. "This is a preliminary hearing to determine if Ms. Morales' claims warrant a full trial. Mr. Hawthorne, your counsel may begin." Richard stood, oozing practiced charm. "Your Honor, this lawsuit is a baseless attack by an individual with a clear vendetta. My client's restaurants comply with all health regulations. What they choose to do with unsold inventory is their right as a business." Then Lina's lawyer, a fiery young advocate named Diego Mendez, stood. "With all due respect, counsel is missing the point. This isn't about rights. It's about responsibility. Hawthorne Enterprises isn't just wasting food. They're deliberately destroying it to avoid the inconvenience of feeding the hungry." He turned to the judge. "We have evidence. The screen behind him lit up with security footage. Gasps rippled to the courtroom as employees dumped trays of fresh sandwiches into trash bags. A voice off camera, identified later as Tyler's operations manager, said, "Make sure it's unusable. Last thing we need is more homeless hanging around." Tyler's face drained of color. Diego paused, letting the horror sink in. This isn't just waste. It's a choice. A cruel one. He dropped a final bombshell. And thanks to Illinois' Food Donation Act, it's also illegal. The judge's expression darkened. "Mr. Cole, does your client have any defense for this?" Richard opened his mouth, but Tyler, his ego boiling over, cut him off. "This is ridiculous. Since when do I have to hand out free meals to every bum who—" "Mr. Hawthorne." The judge's voice cracked like a whip. "Sit down. Now." A terrible silence fell. Then, the judge's next words sent a shockwave through the room. "Given the evidence, I'm allowing this case to proceed to trial. And, Mr. Hawthorne, I suggest you prepare a very good argument for why you shouldn't be held liable for willful violation of state food recovery laws." As the gavel slammed, Tyler's phone buzzed with another alert. Hawthorne Development stock plummets 18% after courtroom footage leaks. And in the back of the room, Lena allowed herself the smallest, quietest smile. The war had only just begun. The truth goes viral. Tyler Hawthorne's penthouse no longer felt like a sanctuary. The floor-to-ceiling windows that once showcased Chicago's glittering skyline now only reflected his growing isolation. His phone buzzed incessantly. Investors pulling out, board members demanding emergency meetings, reporters camping outside his building. The footage in the courtroom had spread like wildfire, and the internet had already branded him the face of corporate greed. He poured himself a third whiskey, the ice long melted, and scrolled through the headlines. Hawthorne's Bleach Buffet, how one man decided hunger was good for business. From billionaire to villain, the fall of Tyler Hawthorne. Lena Morales becomes the face of a movement. #StarveTheRich trends nationwide. His hand shook as he dialed Richard's number for the 5th time that hour. "You need to fix this." Tyler seated the moment his lawyer picked up. Richard's sigh crackled through the phone. "I told you not to speak in court. That outburst cost us whatever sympathy we might have had. Right now, our best move is damage control. Settle with Morales before this gets worse." "Settle?" Tyler's glass shattered against the wall. "I'm not giving that trash-digging con artist a dime." "Then prepare to lose everything," Richard said flatly, "because the DA just announced they're investigating for criminal negligence. And your wife's lawyer called. She's filing for divorce." The line went dead. Meanwhile, Lena sat in the back room of the community center, surrounded by volunteers sorting through an unprecedented mountain of donations. Ever since the courtroom footage leaked, support had poured in from across the country. Food, supplies, even offers from chefs willing to cook reclaimed meals. Maya Chun from the Tribune pushed through the crowd, her tablet in hand. "Lena, you need to see this." The screen showed a live press conference. Tyler's business partner, Daniel Choi, stood at a podium, his face grim. "Effective immediately, I am severing all ties with Hawthorne Enterprises," Daniel announced. "The values displayed in those videos do not reflect our company's mission. We've partnered with Chicago Food Rescue to redistribute all unsold inventory moving forward." The room erupted in cheers. Lena, however, watched silently as Daniel continued. "To Ms. Morales, you have my deepest respect, and my personal apology." Maya nudged her. "That's huge. Daniel Choi controls 30% of Hawthorne shares. This could tank Tyler's empire." Lena folded her arms. "It's not about destroying him. It's about fixing the system." "Too late for that," said Diego, striding in with a manila envelope. Tyler just got served with another lawsuit, this time from his own employees. Turns out, ordering staff to destroy food while cutting their health care made them very willing to testify. He slid out a photo. Tyler, caught mid-scream at a valet outside his office, surrounded by protesters holding signs that read, "You're trash, their lives, and feed people, not landfills." Lena traced the image. "He still doesn't get it. This was never just about me." That night, Tyler sat alone in his darkened office, the glow of his laptop casting eerie shadows. The numbers didn't lie. His net worth had dropped 62% in 72 hours. Banks were calling in loans. The IRS had launched an audit. Even his country club friends had stopped returning calls. A notification popped up, a trending video from Now This. He clicked play against his better judgment. The footage showed Lena standing on the steps of City Hall, surrounded by a diverse crowd, college students, elderly volunteers, even a group of chefs in whites. Her voice rang clear. This isn't victory. Not yet. Every day, restaurants throw away enough food to feed every hungry person in this city twice over. We're done asking nicely for change. Today, we demand it. The camera panned to show the crowd holding up plates, real plates, not paper ones, each filled with meals made from reclaimed food. A silent, powerful rebuke. Tyler's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Your move, Mr. Hawthorne. The world is watching. He threw the phone across the room, where it hit a framed Forbes cover, his smirking face under the headline, The Billionaire Who Built Chicago. The glass cracked right through a smile. Somewhere in the city, a church bell tolled midnight. And in that moment, Tyler Hawthorne finally understood he wasn't just fighting Lena anymore. He was fighting the future. The final judgment. The morning of the verdict dawned gray and heavy. The kind of Chicago, whether that felt like the sky itself was holding its breath. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Protesters with signs, reporters with microphones, and ordinary people who just wanted to witness the moment a billionaire would finally be held accountable. Inside, Tyler Hawthorne sat stiffly at the defendant's table, his once impeccable suit now hanging slightly loose on his frame. The past weeks had carved hollows beneath his eyes, and the arrogance that once defined him had been replaced by something far more unsettling: fear. Across the aisle, Lena Morales sat with her hands folded in her lap. She wore a simple navy dress, her hair pulled back, looking less like a revolutionary and more like what she truly was, a woman who had simply asked for justice. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. After reviewing the evidence, Judge Wilkins began, her voice steady. This court finds Hawthorne Enterprises guilty of willful violation of the Illinois Food Donation Act, as well as fraudulent business practices regarding waste disposal tax benefits. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Tyler's lawyer slumped in his seat. The court orders Hawthorne Enterprises to pay $2.8 million in fines, to be allocated to Chicago's food recovery programs. The judge continued. Additionally, all Hawthorne-owned restaurants will be required to donate 100% of unsold edible food to certified nonprofits for a minimum of 5 years, with quarterly audits to ensure compliance. Then came the final blow. Mr. Hawthorne, given the deliberate nature of these violations, you are hereby sentenced to 200 hours of community service, to be served with Chicago Food Rescue, under the supervision of Ms. Morales. Tyler's head snapped up. What? But the judge wasn't finished. And should you fail to comply, this court will not hesitate to impose further penalties, including potential jail time for contempt. The gavel fell. It was over. Outside, the crowd erupted as Lena emerged from the courthouse. Cameras flashed, people cheered, but her eyes were fixed on Tyler, who was being hurried into a waiting car by his legal team. For the briefest moment, their gazes locked, his full of bitter defeat, hers steady and unreadable. Then he was gone, his luxury car swallowed by the city traffic. Myachin pushed through the crowd, microphone in hand. Lena, what's next for you in Chicago Food Rescue? Lena turned to face the cameras, the wind tugging at her hair. This was never just about one man or one company. It's about changing a system that values profit over people. Today proved that when we speak up, when we demand better, the world has to listen. She smiled then, warm and genuine. And if anyone wants to help, we always need more volunteers. Just visit chicagofoodrescue.org. Every pair of hands makes a difference. 2 weeks later, in a church kitchen downtown, Tyler Hawthorne stood stiffly in a borrowed apron, his designer shoes splattered with tomato sauce as he awkwardly packed meals under Lena's watchful eye. You're putting the rice on top of the vegetables, she said mildly. It'll make the containers tip over. He glared at her but rearranged the food without comment. Around them, volunteers chatted and laughed, deliberately ignoring the billionaire in their midst. A little girl, no more than 6, tugged at his sleeve. "Mister, can you pass the napkins?" Something in Tyler's face twitched. For the first time in his life, he was being spoken to not as a CEO or a mogul, but as just another person. It should have infuriated him. Instead, he handed her the napkins. Lena watched, saying nothing. The road ahead would be long. For Tyler, for the city, for the countless people still going hungry every night. But as the kitchen buzzed around them, filled with the smell of cooking food and the sound of shared purpose, something quiet and hopeful took root. Change, after all, had to start somewhere. This story proves that one voice can change everything. Want more real-life justice stories? Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if this inspired you, share it. You never know who might need to hear it today.